as much as I love surfing and I love, traveling to find waves and get good waves, it's like always been the in between. Like I like diving down the alleys that you wouldn't, dive down. Of course, if the waves are good, we're surfing, but when they're not, like, what are we doing? We're out there. Let's get out there. Let's meet people. Let's pack a backpack and leave for 2 or 3 days and just find places to stay along the way. I think that part of travel and being open to the spontaneity and not just waiting for waves. That's why we're so lucky as surfers. And I feel like if you go back to the 60s, talk to Dick Metz, right? Go back to when he was swashbuckling, from here to Tahiti on merchant marine vessels and all of these rad stories where he was just going with it. Yeah, he wanted to surf a little bit, but there was other priorities along the way. And so I don't know, I really valued those in between moments. I graduated high school. They were like, hey, you should go to Europe and go on like that quest and go figure this out. Maybe they thought I was a little lost. Maybe they thought I might find myself a little bit out there, and I didn't want to go. It was like my first summer after high school. I'm like, I don't want to go to Europe. Like, I had no interest in it.
Wow.
I didn't. I was like, I want to hang here. I got a girlfriend. Like, I'm going to go to college and I want to like live it up. And they were like, no, like you should think about it. We'll give you $50 a day and a Euro pass, which super grateful looking back. First of all, that they had the means to do that, but also like I think about my son who's 12, like shipping him off to Europe in 6 years, I'd be like, oh my God.
You'd be so scared.
Yeah. But then I talked to a friend of mine, his brother had been, the brother's name was Mike Carter. You might know, he works in the surf industry, and he had done that trip with a couple of the boys. And this is some of the storytelling that came back, and I'm like, oh yeah, so wait, no, we could bring boards. We could start in France and go to Hossegor like everybody talked about, and then maybe run down to San Sebastian. I heard a lot about that place. So that got me kind of stoked. I'm like, okay, we're gonna go surf and we'll see what happens. I'm like, I think I was even like, hey Mom, I'm gonna come back after like 2 weeks. And my buddy was like, the whole trip was supposed to be 2 months. And she's like, okay, whatever, just go for 2 weeks then.
Wow.
So we did it, and we were living off $50 a day, just scraping through, trying to, at that point you could stay at a hotel or a hostel for like $15-20.
Yeah.
You got like $25 for the rest of the day or whatever. So we did our best to scrape by, and we'd have like days where we'd just eat, baguettes and a beer and save up our money so that we could go big and party and, go to Pamplona, sleep in the alleyways, run with the bulls. But we ended up making our way all the way down to Portugal. I think we were surf for like 3 weeks maybe, and then met some people, and they're like, you got to go to Prague, man. You gotta go east. And this is in like 95.
Okay.
So at that point, like, the whole deal was like, beers are like 50 cents in Prague. You got to go to Prague. It
was a money-saving venture.
Yeah, totally. And it sounded kind of gnarly. It sounded like Czech Republic, Czechoslovakia. It just become the Czech Republic. I think it's like 89, something like that.
Okay.
And so it was this like new democracy. It was kind of free. Like that was back when like Europe was just raving like hard. Like there was no rock and roll. It was all just electro. And I hadn't been into that, but you get into Europe at that point, and you're young, and you're like, this is cool.
Sure.
And so we drifted over there, met more people, and it just took us. I stayed the whole 2 months, and at that point, I was, like I said, sort of drawing and keeping journals and stuff, and I sort of documented the whole trip in a journal and paintings, and I was pretty active doing that, and came back at it. I mean, literally, that's what got me here.
Wow.
I mean, I don't, if I wouldn't have done that trip, I tell my mom to this day, like, it took me, I think it was about 12 years, 15 years almost after I finished college to start this company, but that's what sort of drew me in to this pathway.